Welcome back to The Vocalist. Today I am hearing the band Steelheart for the first time, so we're starting with the song I'll Never Let You Go. Here we go. Okay, wasn't ready for that one. We're going back. First off, I love the timbre of his voice. It is so bright, but there is so much width to his sound that it just, I don't know, it feels so big and broad at the same time, even though you've got that brightness. So here we go. This is an interesting use of texture because the sustained lines are very clean sounding, but he's using glottal onsets and fries at the beginning of phrases. So we're getting a little bit of texture, but he immediately zips up the chords right after that. This is a great example also of the width I was talking about. Angel Eyes, it's so wide, and there's still some height, there's still a little bit of spread, but as opposed to saying Angel Eyes, I think at least in certain parts of the States, we tend to lean a little bit more toward a schwa sound. Eyes, well, maybe a little more. I guess it depends. Some ah, some maybe less But compared to what we're hearing here, eyes, that's a really nice, bright, it leans closer to ah. I just love the variation in vowel sounds. Yes, sometimes it depends on where you're from or where you live, but when you're not used to hearing it, it sort of piques one's interest. So let me back this up. But the surprise came because, of course, we've got this beautiful, very subdued melodic line. It seems like a very intimate song that I'm about to, prepare for. And then instant shift, not even when they get to the chorus, like before that. I don't know if it's considered a verse or a bridge or a pre-chorus. I'd have to, look at the lyrics, but that was cool. You have angel eyes, such a smile. one thing I really appreciate is that this vowel sound is consistent. Smile that lights up my life. It would be very easy for one to say, I mean, even you could say it at home, smile that lights up my life. There's variation in my pronunciation from one vowel to the next. So when you have the opportunity to have consistency in your vowel sounds, that just sort of keeps everything in place, which is great when you're singing, which is why a lot of young singers in the classical genre will tend to start with the Italian language. Yes, I know there's variation with open vowels and closed vowels, but there is a lot less variation in that language and those vowel sounds than there are for American students. So, anyway, here we go. Oh my goodness, hold on. Let me back it up. I'm getting this transition again before I comment. I should rephrase what I said previously. I have the tendency to say American when I'm talking about the States, but I know like the Americas are much bigger than the United States. So when I was referring to students in America, I was referring to those of us in the United States and our dialects and accents. Our dream come true. There's a little vibrato on go, but you can still hear I'm saying the word cleanliness or clean adduction, just lack of texture. Obviously vibrato is not, one could say it is inversely related to texture. When I'm talking about texture, I'm not talking about oscillation, but it's interesting to hear when the two are combined and when they are not. I know, lots of rewinding. This shift, not only in intensity, but also into that head dominant mix, is interesting, a little shocking. But what I love that he did vocally is you can hear that almost growl. It's like sort of that Cookie Monster growl I talk about when you're sort of learning how to play with texture. Now, then we had pure straight tone, no vibrato, very powerful sound, but it's so smart when you're ascending, when you're going into these bigger notes or especially big notes up high, to find ways of separating the chords or at least finding a little bit of added relaxation so that you're not tightening so much. That is just, if possible, and yes, it varies throughout one's range, but we want to always have just the tiniest steady stream of air coming out of our mouths while we're singing and while we're phonating. And more often than not, you will, not hear, but you won't feel that as a higher voice, especially when you're up high and you've got tightness. So putting in some additional texture just at the onset is really smart, because then it's so much easier to just kind of pull the chords together again. But if they're already really tight up high, it's harder to get them to relax when you're there. Now, you can hear the shift in timbre. Let me play that again. goes down into, well, to the word you specifically, that is a much more balanced mix. At the top of his range here, I'm calling it a mix, less so because of the muscle action and more so because of the sound he's producing. When we think about a mix, we're balancing the work between the TA muscle and the CT muscle. And sometimes we get one extreme or the other, depending on where we are in the range. You get to a place in any voice where your TA muscle is tapped out. And so you have to find ways of utilizing breath pressure and tension to create sounds that are reminiscent of one's chest mix, but we have to eliminate the activity of the TA muscle, otherwise it's just not sustainable. So even though this is very close to falsetto, there's so much power behind this sound and it matches so beautifully the lower end of, this line, but also as he sort of dives back into his chest dominant mix, then I'm calling it a mix, even though depending on the coach, depending on this, what the definition you use, you could also call this a falsetto, or head voice. We'll just leave it at that. Oh. Go back. I love how pristine his tone is in that mix, in that heady space, because it just feels so controlled and yet still so powerful, even though it's a slightly lighter sound than what we hear in mid-range from him. I think the blending that he has throughout his registers is also incredibly beautiful. There's intensity to this song, but there's just this mellowness, and I think a big part of that is his vocals. There's warmth to his sound, there's a gentility to his sound, and yes, this is a love song, but I don't know, it's just, I like it. We're gonna keep going. Ooh, that was it. When you heard My Heart, you got to hear some of those bassier sounds, which we haven't heard much of. Like heart specifically, that word, it's just like a laser beam coming from his mouth. going to say something else, and now I don't even remember. I love like the composition itself here, because even though we can distinguish each register and we can hear that shift, the melodic line allows him to do it in a way that's, I don't know, it just doesn't feel obvious, if that makes sense. Or it's not sticking out, you know, everything is just kind of flowing really beautifully, even though, yes, we're hearing these different spots in his voice and they are very contrasting with one another. I'm not bothered by it. So often as singers, we're trying to make everything so seamless and blended, and I do believe his voice to be very well blended, but he's not shying away from just showcasing the differences in each part, which I like. There was even an additional, like, slight rearticulation at the end of that. Now that does sound very close to whistle tone. Again, it's all about definitions, but the way I teach whistle tone is when you get to the absolute top of your range, when we think, okay, I'm in falsetto here, there's still some vibration happening in the chords. I'm of, I don't know, the school of thought, or I've been taught that when you get to whistle tone, we have some separation in the chords naturally because of how high we are, but we don't use vibration in the chords. And so it's a literal whistle when you think about the air flowing through the chords as they are stretched and thinned, kind of like a reed. But again, vocal, I guess I would say pedagogy, is just such an interesting topic because there are so many ways of describing the same thing, or there can also be so many different, I was going to reverse that. So many different definitions. What am I trying to say? You can have one thing described in many ways, or you can have one name that describes many different things. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Hopefully you get my meaning. We're going to keep going. I'm going to back this up just because we don't hear him in mid-range very much. There's a bit of twang to his sound, which I really like because it's not super noticeable, but it's enough, and I think it's brilliant considering how high he sings. All right, that was impressive. The other really smart thing about this song as a whole, the composition, is it didn't go super low. And we heard that, like that one moment where I pointed it out, tiny remnants of, his lower range. But when you're singing that high, it's so hard to get the chords to just chill out and relax. Maybe not even so hard. It's just that it takes time and you don't always have time for that to happen. So when you're stretching and thinning the chords that much, it's always good to just stay in a happy, comfortable range and not explore the bottom of your range. And on the opposing side of that, whenever you are singing or warming up, I always say, yeah, just start by warming up the bottom of your voice when it's super relaxed, maybe even a little tired, just so that you're doing it gently and you're easing into your practice time or your warm up, so that if you're exploring the extreme ends of your range, it works out in your favor. I'm not going to say much more. I talked a lot during this one. So thank you guys so much for watching with me and for this recommendation. And hopefully I will see you next time.